All right, introduction to breathing. I know it might seem a little silly and crazy that the very first thing you are doing on your workout journey is learning how to breathe, as if you don't already. But let me explain to you why this is so incredibly important. Okay. If we think about the way that we breathe, we are using a lot of muscles throughout the core to take in breaths as they expand and then contract as we exhale. People who tend to have a lot of anxiety, who take very shallow breaths, also have a correlation with having a lot of back pain. And I believe that the reason is because if you are not actively and consistently using all of the muscles around your core as you take these nice, deep, wide breaths, um, they're not going to be as active and they're not going to be as strong to be able to support the support your spine, which is joints. You know, your spine is made of a bunch of vertebrae, which are all moving joints, and you want to be able to support them and have a nice stable spine. So, what I want you to think about as we are getting into some of these breathing practices, and we'll get into that in the next video. But for the first one, you want to think about your core, and especially in terms of breathing as a cylinder. So we've got the top of that cylinder that is your diaphragm. And your diaphragm is largely responsible for breathing in and out. Okay. So everybody kind of associates maybe the diaphragm with breathing. But I want you to think about it more as a cylinder where that is the top. Now you've also got the muscles that wrap around your body. We've got lots of core muscles that wrap around, starting with the ones that are closest to the spine and then working their way out as we get into the internal obliques, external obliques, and the rectus abdominis, which is your six pack, and all of those muscles that wrap around the spine, right? And then at the bottom, which is the lesser thought of, is your muscles of the pelvic floor. Now, if you are a female and you've ever had any kind of leaky urine or, when you sneeze or jump, then this one is definitely for you. You want to think about how we can get really well versed in practicing that contraction and relaxing of that pelvic floor so that you can support and handle pressure as you're doing activity. Now, men, this is important for you too. The more common symptom of a weaker pelvic floor for a male might be an inguinal hernia, where maybe you're like holding your breath or trying to control out of pressure, and then you get those hernias that are like, on the low sides by your hips. So we don't want any of that, right? None of that. So it's super important that you learn how to breathe really well in ways that are fully expanding and stretching the muscles that support that cylinder while you breathe, and then also making sure that they contract really well. Now I want to leave you with one more thing before we get to the next video where we actually practice this. Now, if you want to think about your core muscles and how they're going to get stronger, think of like a bicep curl, right? So if I were going to do a bicep curl, I want to fully extend and lengthen this muscle and then fully contract this muscle so that it gets stronger. I wouldn't sit here and do like a bicep curl like this and expect for it to really work. So similar is true when we're talking about the muscles of the core. If you're not capable of taking these nice, big, deep breaths, then you really don't have anywhere for them to contract and for them to go, right? So if we're just sitting here breathing like this, then they're not really going to get stronger in any kind of quick way. So that's why we really take some time working on breathing on the front end. So I'm going to go through a couple of drills in the next video.